All right, go ahead. I just want to try this out and see how it works with recording voice. So go ahead.
They were interviewing the Prime Minister of Finland, a woman. And the interviewer asked her, how did Finland go from a subsistence farming economy and timber to high-tech like Nokia and all the other high-tech spin-offs? And she said 3 things: education, education, education. In Finland, the top 20% of the graduating classes become teachers, and they are paid as much as they would earn in private economy, and they're given a tremendous amount of respect.
Yep. Yeah. I remember you telling me about that. Did you see an interview or read an interview? Where did you find that?
I was watching television and bingo, this unsuspected interview came up. Well, it's all a function of money and investing in in education, but education has been a secondary thing in Western culture, except in certain families and groups and cultures. Switzerland, it's very high, but they turned out Pestalozzi, they turned out a lot of brilliant people. They're very liberal. Holland, same thing. England has had a very, very problematic history until the 20th century. A Jew or an Irish Catholic could not go to Oxford. They could go to Cambridge, but not Oxford. And
well, didn't you tell me that even WashU had a quota?
Washington,
You know.
Yeah. I am dead set against quotas.
Yeah.
That's why I did not like and do not support affirmative action or quota systems. You have a cousin in the family, Nathan Kaminsky. Did I tell you the Kaminsky story?
I don't think so. I mean, I've heard the name before.
Nathan Kaminsky. Nate was in Russia, paler Russia, Eastern Europe. He was my grandmother's brother or cousin. I don't know exactly. But anyway, Nate had to memorize the epic poem that takes an hour to recite, Borodino. Skaziki dядя не подаром. Tell me, uncle, did it really burn? It's an epic poem. He had to memorize that and speak perfect Russian. He applied for the gymnasia 3 times, and by chance, not quality, chance, he got blackballed. So he said, the heck with it. And he came to St. Louis, where Bubba was, and went down to Produce Row. He was like 17 years old, okay? 16, 17. But he knew chemistry, he had studied on his own, and he knew European history. And he was buying raw sugar before the First World War. He rented a 5-story block of warehouse and loaded it from floor to ceiling with raw sugar, bags of 100-pound bags of raw sugar.
Mm-hmm. I remember the story now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He did not live a happy life.
So keep going though, because I don't remember all the details. So I don't remember what the sugar's for. I know it's something to do with
explosives
mm-hmm.
and sugar for the table. It was unrefined raw sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everybody up and down Produce Row said, "Hey, that Kaminsky kid is crazy. Some sugar there. He's buying sugar. Nobody's buying sugar. He bought sugar." Make a long story shorter, by the time the First World War was over, he was like 21, 22. He was a millionaire in $1918,
yeah.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
which would probably be like a billionaire today. When he was through emptying out the warehouse, the floors from each floor had collapsed from the weight of all the sugar, stacked in floor to ceiling. And when he started at the top, at each floor, they pulled out the rubble and pulled out the sugar, okay? Put it on the elevator and sold it. He spent the rest of his life petrified that he would lose his money. He kept his own books. His children did not own their own homes. He gave them an allowance. They had to account to him to the penny. Food, clothing, overhead, everything.
Mm-hmm.
His second wife, I don't know what happened to the first wife, she ran away. But the second wife was a spinster,
First go now in my bathroom.
a spinster working for the government as a secretary, and she married him with a prenuptial that said when he died, she gets nothing. Okay? I used to pick that woman up in freezing weather. He would not let her own a car. She had to use public transportation. She had to buy all her clothing at Goodwill. This man's a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
He bought Manischewitz. He was Mr. Manischewitz. When he died, they celebrated. They actually celebrated. I went over. I heard about the guy. I never met him. I went to a wedding at Shara Emmett, and they sat me at the table with him because I could speak a little Russian, and he liked to speak Russian. So he sat there at 92. He lived almost 100, and he repeated to me the entire epic poem Borodino. Entire from memory. Okay? I had a 33 1/3 album of the recording. So I took it over to his place at La Hacienda. He bought a mansion in Hacienda at 10 cents on the dollar during the Depression. I took the album over, loaned him my album. I went into this mansion, beautiful mansion, and everything in the house came from Goodwill. The carpets were worn out. Everything. Oh, you walked in, you went in the front door and you walked into another century. When he died, his widow brought me back my album, which I didn't care. The Sons treated her like a queen for putting up with Nathan Kaminsky. They gave her like 50, enough money that she had nothing to worry about. They gave her the house. They redecorated it. They bought all new furniture. And they took over the business. But he was absolutely petrified that he would lose his money.
He just thought it was going to slowly get spent and he would run out, or he thought he was going to be robbed, or what? He was worried about another depression?
He did not trust anything or anybody. He kept his own books. He wouldn't hire a bookkeeper. Very tragic story. Some people say, yeah, he became a multimillionaire. Yeah. He never took a vacation. He didn't enjoy anything. All he did was count money. That's it. Sickness. Absolute sickness.
It sounds like a bad Charles Dickens novel, you know? I mean, you know what I mean? Well, I guess maybe there aren't bad Charles Dickens, but it sounds like a sad Charles Dickens novel, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, he's... I think I've seen that character before.
Yeah, well, that was Nathan Kaminsky. Their father, I think it was a brother of Ida Wolf, Kaminsky Wolf.
So how is Nathan related to you?
Nathan, I believe, was my grandmother's brother.
Okay.
Their father, in the old country, was a village blacksmith. Now, we think of a blacksmith today as a guy who shoes horses. But in the 19th century and before, you could not have a village or a town without a blacksmith. Because they made everything for the house: scissors, knives, utensils,
nails, just
anything,
and
everything. Plowshares, hammers, pliers. They were metallurgists.
Yeah.
And before the Bessemer...
So basically, the blacksmith in the 19th century in the smaller towns has been replaced by the Walmart in... I'm just kidding, but you know, you don't have any of the necessaries without the blacksmith.
That's it. You couldn't have a town. He was the most important man in town. You can do without a rabbi. You can do without a chicken seller. You can do without a green merchant, but you cannot do without a blacksmith. Each blacksmith had his own formula for making steel, that they guarded their formula very, very closely. Until the Bessemer furnace came along, there was no mass production of steel. And that put all the puddlers, they were called puddlers, because they made little batches of steel that would make a special knife or a sword or whatever. From 1600 to 1900, the best steel in the world was made in Japan. They figured it out.
Yeah.
But the samurai swords and whatever.
Yeah, I've read about that. Just the number of folds that they could get into the metal or something.
Yeah, the beating on it, changing the molecular structure. Not Europe. Japan. I showed you the Chinese bellows, didn't I?
Yeah, so like when it blows air both when you pump like up and down, so it kind of doubles the air output compared to...
Yeah, it's a piston.
Yeah.
In a box. The box can be any size.
Yeah.
But that was 100% oxygen, 100% efficiency. That didn't get to Europe. Europe was using a 50%.
Right.
And you need 180 degrees Fahrenheit to work metal. You can't do that with a hand 50%. You don't get enough oxygen.
Yeah.
So,
Wait, Mom. There's a lot of stuff on.
in reading current books on China, Chinese history,
Mom, it's like Dad's stuff. And it's like all in one stack.
China refers to the 19th century.
Put it in the library.
Just like move all of it?
Okay, I'll get it. Just give me a minute. I'll get it in a minute.
It
Okay.
seems like this, like, they don't know what to do with it.
They refer to the 19th century as their 100 years of humiliation. And that's why they have a very thin skin
Mom, you don't
for anything that is any way conceived as anti-Chinese. Trump doesn't understand that. He's gonna tell China what to do. Man is a Meshuggah. He's totally unqualified. But go ahead.
Oh, okay.
He was breaking the tail of a horse, a colt, in Russia. And the colt kicked him in the stomach and he was ruptured the rest of his life. Or a truss.
So his stomach was ruptured?
Yeah. This original Kershman looked like a Turkish wrestler.
The one who's like the Isaac?
Yeah, Isaac himself
Mm-hmm.
looked like a Turkish wrestler. I lost the photograph. I had a photograph of him and my father, and you could have put Ben in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
It looks exactly like at that age. My dad was 5 years old, and I don't know how old Isaac was. But Isaac's son was very sickly. He died young. And the two sisters, there was my father and two sisters, who were living in an orphanage in Russia. And when Dad came over, he got settled, and they brought them over, and they married the Kahn brothers. And ended up in San Diego. That's a funny story. My father had a partner. He did the outside selling and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Landsman. Landsman was a big braggart, loudmouth type of guy. Okay, very obnoxious. And the Kahns, one of the brothers was a compulsive gambler. And when they were in St. Louis on Produce Row, he gambled away the cash for buying produce. So they were under the gun, and they grabbed the family, and they went, boom, they went to San Diego. And he did it again. A compulsive gambler. Okay? And so he came to refinance the business. He came to Fort Worth to see if he could raise the money for my father. And if not there, he was going to come to St. Louis. And the landsman liked to play poker on the weekends at the Blackstone Hotel. And he asked Abe, he says, "Hey, we play Texas poker. You know Texas poker, no limit." He says, "I play a little poker. I can play poker." By Monday morning, he had the business refinanced. They played all weekend. Monday morning, he shows up at the house, so the story goes, with an armful of gifts for Rhoda, Bernard, Irving, Mama, Daddy, everything. He was back in business. So the family in San Diego gave him a limit. Each month he got a certain amount of money that he could gamble with, but stay away from the till. And they sat on him like a rock. You play poker? I play a little poker. I know the game. He was a master. He took them to the cleaners. He broke the bank. These guys played non-stop, no stick, no limit poker from Friday night to Sunday morning.
So they probably kept playing because they wanted to win their money back.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they went out and got refinanced. But he was a diabetic and very, very self-centered. And he was playing this weekend poker, and they like to get sweet and sour pickles. And when they eat the pickles, they like to pass the jar around for everybody to take a drink. It's a Jewish thing. And it got to...
Drinking pickle juice?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I just thought that was just me.
No. And they passed the jar that he was supposed to share with everybody else at the game.
Mm-hmm.
Gave it to him, and he drank the whole damn thing. And then he went in on a bed and had a diabetic shock and died.
Now, who was that guy? That was...
Landsman, my father's partner.
Okay. So you said he was the front man? So
Yeah,
he was like...
Mr. Outside.
I see.
He robbed my mother blind when my father died for the business. But no Jewish family in Fort Worth would allow the Landsmans in their home. After that, they were persona non grata.
So what did your mom do after that?
Well, she came to St. Louis.
Dad,
And then she went back to Texas. And then she went to St. Louis. And then she went back to Texas.
wait, so was
What?
his great-grandpa captured by Alexander the Great?
No. So the Alexander the Great, he's saying why there were Jews in that region of the world in the first place.
Oh, okay, good.
Alexander conquered a lot of places, and he, explain it to him, Grandpa.
Well, Alexander the Great, food basket for growing food was the Crimea. And Alexander the Great needed people.
So Alexander was from Macedonia, and then he
learns that
conquered Greece, and then he kind of went over here and he conquered North Africa, and he started coming here, but he was getting his food from up in this area. Instead of going like down to Greece, he was getting it from up here. Okay, I just was showing him on the map on the globe.
But Alexander the Great did not trust other Greeks, any of them. In fact, Aristotle was not Greek. He was Macedonian. He was not Athenian. He was Macedonian. And the Macedonians were Hellenized Slavs, Slavic group who became Hellenized, Greek culture. But they were not accepted as pure Greek Hellenes. Corinthians or Athenians, any of the other Spartans or anything. They looked down on the Macedonians until Philip of Macedon. That's Alexander's father. But so Alexander brought Jews up from Jerusalem and Judea because they knew mathematics, they were trustworthy, and literate to run his farms for his army. So that was the original Jewish community in what is now Russia, Crimea, Krim.
And that's where those Jews lived there for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And then Grandpa's great-grandfather was named Isaac, and he was an orphan.
He was captured as a kid?
Well, sort of. That's what Grandpa was telling us a little while ago. He was captured and then raised to be a Russian, like a Christian Russian, without knowing, what his history was, but it didn't really stick. Is that right, Grandpa?
That's right.
So he knew he was Jewish.
Yeah.
Because he was old enough to remember that when they got him.
He was probably 8 or 9 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they just stuck him in a school or orphanage or?
No, they take them to the military barracks, and they worked as servants for the older soldiers until they were old enough to become soldiers.
Hmm.
But they had a peculiar rule in the Russian army. The officers could take their families if they got transferred from one post to another. The enlisted men could not. So I have a feeling that the aunts that we had pictures of were various wives that he had.
Because he had to move and then
Yeah.
had to leave them behind?
Yeah, yeah,
I see.
yeah. Not exactly good service. But that was the rule. People don't realize how primitive a country Russia really is. But if you read Russian history, you can understand Putin. He's pure Russian. And everything he's doing is perfectly logical to the Russian point of view. I really think when they get down to the finances of Mr. Trump, they're going to find that he was bought and sold by Putin, which is treason.
I hope they find that soon.
Well, they're on the track. Mueller is on the track.
Yeah.
He does not want the public or anybody to look at his tax returns. The man has been bankrupt like 3 or 4 times. There is no credible lender of the amounts of money that he needs to leverage anything he does that will loan him money. He's gone bankrupt 4 times. So he's been getting cash, money, laundering it through real estate from Russia. Laundering money, the best way to launder money is in real estate. This has been a fact of life for a long time. The Colombian cocaine people would come to Panama, build a condominium or a hotel or something for $10 million, and then sell it for $6. And it was untraceable. It was clean money. They had $6 million of clean money. That is a tragedy.
Yep.
But time will tell. The American voting public will not allow that thing to happen again. They'll vote next time. We can't blame them. We can blame the people who didn't vote.
I'm gonna go get Cohen.
Okay. Who was the guy
Can I go? Yes.
who bought all the sugar in World War II or leading up to World War II?
Yeah, well, that was Nathan Kaminsky.
Wait, I'll tell.
Nathan Kaminsky, brilliant mind. He was over 90 years old when I met him, and he sat at that table at the wedding reception at Sharon, and he repeated the entire epic poem Borodino. Skazika Djadja ne padalo. Tell me, Uncle, did it really burn? It takes an hour to recite that entire poem. An hour. I had a 33 1/3 album of that particular poem, and I loaned it to Nathan Kaminsky. And I didn't get it back until after he died. He was a very, very tight-fisted. He's Mr. Scrooge on steroids. He lived at 99, 100 years old. He was a complete tyrant for his children and wife, second wife. I went into his mansion, not in mansion, in the hacienda in Clayton. Here's this beautiful mansion that he bought at 10 cents on the dollar during the Depression. And every piece of furniture in there came out of Goodwill. The carpets were worn through.
Wait, so was it World War I that he made the fortune selling sugar? Okay.
Before World War I. He had applied for the gymnasia 3 times and was blackballed because just out of chance. And so he said, the heck with it, and came to St. Louis. He must have been 18 years old. But he understands chemistry, and he understands Russian history, and he understands European history. And he knew that the First World War was going to happen. He believed it. So he was buying raw sugar at dirt cheap. And he got this 5-story full block warehouse. And he loaded it floor to ceiling, five floors. The weight of the sugar was so much that he broke the floors in. And when the price of sugar went up, he started to top selling it. And then by the time he got to the first floor, the First World War was about over, and he was a multimillionaire at 21. Spent the rest of his life deadly paranoid about losing his money. He wouldn't hire a bookkeeper. He did all his own books. He
didn't use the banks.
I doubt it.
I mean, I'm just saying, if he kept his money through the Depression,
yeah,
he probably didn't keep it in the banks.
Yeah, and his children, the 2 sons, they were given an allowance. He owned their car. He owned their house. He gave them a clothing allowance. He watched every penny. They had to account to him for every penny. He was a tyrant. His wife, his second wife, I don't know what happened to the first wife. The second wife, I used to pick her up on corners in St. Louis and give her a ride. He wouldn't let her have a car. She had to use public transportation. Believe me, literally, when he died, they celebrated. And they took care of his second wife like a queen. They got all new furniture. They rehabbed the mansion, turned it over to her, and set her up on a monthly income that she could live like a human being. But Nathan Kaminsky was a piece of work, a real piece of work. He became Mr. Manischewitz. All your Manischewitz stuff was sold by him.
Oh.
In the Midwest and Southwest and South. Immensely wealthy.
And how did you know him?
Well, my grandmother was a Kaminsky.
Oh, okay. Is she the one who was married to Harris Wolff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And her father was the town metallurgist in Russia. He was a blacksmith, which is very important. You couldn't have a village or a town without blacksmiths. They were the metallurgists. They made all the knives, the kitchens, the tools. Everything was made by the blacksmith. So it was not they weren't just horseshoers. They had to know metallurgy.
And you said Harris was like a tailor?
He was a tailor.
He made suits?
Yeah, he made custom men's clothing. He was the premier tailor of Howdy in St. Louis. Webster Grove's, that part of town. Mm-hmm. They had a farm in what is now Maplewood. Funny story. Grandma made some krepla for him and to send it over to the shop. Chicken soup and krepla and matzo ball soup. And the boys, one or the other, Sam and Charlie, had to drop the matzo balls in the snow. Okay, mm-hmm. So they picked them up and put them back in the thing. And he came home and said, "Boy, those are the best matzo balls I've ever had." Yeah, family story. He was a piece of work. He lived in his study after he retired, and Grandma lived in the kitchen, and he was not allowed in the kitchen.
Did you say they lived over by Forest Park?
Yeah, right on Kingsbury, DeMoliver. Mm-hmm. That whole neighborhood. When I'd come up from Texas, I would spend my time at the Art Museum, the Jefferson Memorial. That park was my playground. I got my first job at 8 years old, selling papers in front of Garavelli's on the Bolivar. For Mr. Zimmerman.
Is that like the Bolivar and
Laurel.
Laurel?
Yeah. He sent me to the opposite corner. He was in front of Garavelli's, and I was across the street.
How much did paper cost back then?
3 cents.
3 cents?
And the paper boy's supposed to get a penny. Okay? My first day on the job, I worked from morning until the Muni let out. I must have sold over 100 papers. And he gave me a nickel. And I hadn't told my mom or anybody where I was or what I was doing. I came home, I said, I made a nickel. And Bernard said, what'd you do? And I told him, how many did you sell? I said, over 100. He said, well, he should have given you a penny of paper. That'd be over $1, not 5 cents. I know. So next day I went back, I said, Mr. Zimmerman, my brother told me you should have paid me a penny of paper, and I'd sure like to work for you, but I want my penny. And he said, you're right, kid, go to work.
They gave you a penny of paper after that?
Yeah, oh yeah.
He said, you're right, what?
That selling
Go to work.
newspapers in the Depression was a solid job.
So did you have to yell extra, extra, read all
Oh
about it?
yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Just like, have you seen those old movies, Bert, where there's a kid going, extra, extra, read all about it?
Yeah, that's what I did.
That's awesome.
I had a push cart with all the papers in it.
Bert could take $1 for selling papers all day.
Yep.
Hey,
I bet you.
I would take picking up one gumball for a cent.
Oh yeah, they had an idea about
It works.
going around the neighborhood.
Got $1.
It worked?
Yeah.
Who'd you do it for?
So, you know those people, past home?
Mm-hmm.
Those people we picked up gumball from.
When was that?
Last year?
Like the new people who moved in, or the
No, it was
people who
last
lived there
year
before?
they came in. Yeah, the before.
So Burke and was it Alethea or Esme or who?
Alethea and Esme.
So they got an idea they would volunteer to pick up gumballs out of people's yards for a penny a gumball. So how much did you get?
$1 or something like that.
It's not too bad.
But, wait. That was my cut of it, so it must have gone $3 something.
How do people get gumballs on their lawn?
You know, from the sweet gum tree, those
Oh.
green, well, they're brown when they die, but they're really annoying. They fall out of the tree.
I think they might have wanted it because they were going to sell that house later and they wanted it to be clean looking.
Maybe.
Well, that's very entrepreneurial.
So they paid us $4
Yeah.
probably.
They also, this one was really good. They made a whole bunch of water balloons,
Yeah.
and they took them up to Stacy Park in a bucket and sold them to kids for 10 cents a piece?
And lemonade, yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
The funniest part was one time, Cohen, my brother, said that I was since I was younger, I was cute and people would give me money and no one was buying from it. I said no, and then someone from a car dropped by and he was supposed to give us 50 cents and he gave us $5
Wow,
and
big
then
boy.
drove away.
That's fantastic. You guys are terrific. Absolutely terrific. Magnifico.
How much money did we get from that then?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, I think we only gained $1 or something. We
Because
gained,
what you spent on the lemonade?
yeah, but we split it up, so we basically only gained 30 cents each.
Well, you'll gain a lot more money if you work hard in school and go to college. That's definitely
Yeah.
true.
You got a bright future.
Yeah.
Very
I really
bright.
feel like gambling right now, Dad.
Well, Hanukkah's coming soon, and we're going to be playing some dreidel.
Well, Dad,
I bet Grandpa, since he's living in St. Louis now, I bet he'll come and play some dreidel with us.
Uh-huh.
Dad, 5 cents for this. Heads or tails?
No, I'm not gonna bet you about the penny.
Please.
Mm-mm.
What is it? Alright.
Make a good stop.
Okay.
Nobody. What do you think? What do you think?
And after the war, the IRS came calling, and because she hadn't paid any taxes at all, and she hadn't kept any books, and the IRS guy said, well, how do you know what you're doing? She says, well, if I buy, I take the money out of my right pocket, and if I sell, I put the money in my left pocket. That's the whole story. And when Chick and Bud got back from the Navy, the business was up and going. Southwestern Metals.
I have a different question for you, though.
Yeah.
Alethea wants to hear the story of how the family came from Kerch.
Well, that's a very old story. Under Alexander the Great of Macedon, that part of what is now Russia and was part of the Ukraine was part of his food basket. Macedonia did not have good soil, but that area did. And Alexander the Great did not trust Greeks of any kind. So he brought Jews in from Israel or Jerusalem or wherever to run his farms. And that was the original Jewish community in the area. And then it grew, and it was Sephardic. It's part of Turkey. After the Greeks gave it up, the Pontic Greeks, and my great-grandfather was kidnapped by the Russian government. I think he was 7 or 8 years old, to be raised as a Russian Orthodox Christian. And Pobyedonosyev was the prime minister. And there was Nikolai I. And he said, what am I going to do with all these Jews? After when Catherine the Great took over that area, she took it into the Russian Empire. That was never part of Russia. Never part of the Ukraine. And he asked, Nicholas asked Pobyedonosyev, what do I do with all these Jews? He said, well, you kill 1/3, you drive 1/3 out of Russian territory, and you take the young boys into the Russian military and raise them as Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox Christians. Well, my great-grandfather was one of those children, and he spent most of his working life in the Russian army. And he only remembered 2 things, and that is that he was Jewish, and is from Kerch, Paliostrov Kerch, in the Crimea, on the Black Sea. And so he made up the name Kershman. Then, because he had been in the military, his son and my grandfather, my father, were allowed to go to the gymnasia in Russia. My father graduated the gymnasia, which is the equivalent to a 4-year university today, because after the gymnasia you went into specialize in medicine or whatever, right? And he was a jeweler. He was an artistic jeweler. He graduated, as I said, from the gymnasia at 15, and then he took a 5-year apprenticeship at Nizhny Novgorod, a very ancient center for metallurgy and jewelry design. And all jewelry was handmade at that time. He spent 5 years there, and his father was passing away. He never looked like a healthy person. His father looked like a bull. But anyway, he decided to get the heck out of Russia, and he came over here and landed in New York.
What year did he come over here?
1905.
1905.
And he had a silk Russian peasant's blouse and dressed like a Russian peasant. He had his mandolin and $5 in his pocket. But when he went to work for the houses in New York, all the big names you could think of, unfortunately, my father, Saul Kershman, had a terrible temper. And that's very precise work. And he'd be concentrating on what he's doing, and somebody would bump him or bump his table, and he would go off. He would fly off the handle. And so he left New York, went to Chicago, came to St. Louis, and got married to my mother, and they met in the JCCA orchestra. She played the piano and he played the balalaika, or the mandolin. And then he decided he wanted to go to Texas. So that's how he got there. He was a very, very fine craftsman with a very sharp temper. He and my mother were walking down the street. He was not a big man, 5'4" at the most, strong as a bull. And this man bumped into Mom. He pulled him into an alley and whacked him and knocked him out. He had a very quick temper, very quick temper. I guess that's where I get that. But anyway, that's the story of the Kershmans. He left 2 sisters in Russia in an orphanage. We have pictures of those little girls with their heads shaved.
Why did they shave their heads?
Because of lice. But
Yeah.
that was then. Hygiene in Russia was very poor. Education was very poor. This for the select few. But when he got settled here, he brought the 2 sisters over. And the 2 sisters married 2 brothers, the Kahn brothers. And the Kahn brothers they were in St. Louis on Produce Row. One brother was a compulsive gambler. And at that time, the farmers would not take a check. They wanted cash on the barrelhead. And he liked to gamble. So he broke the business, and they left town under a cloud and went to San Diego. And then he did the same darn thing again during the Depression. Well, he came to Fort Worth to see if he could raise money to put their company back in business. And if he couldn't get the money from my father, who was very successful, he'd going to come to St. Louis and see if he could get the money from the Wolf people, most of them doctors. Anyway, my father's partner in his Star company was a big mouth Rodney Dangerfield guy. And he told him, he said, "You play poker?" "I play a little poker." He said, "Well, we play poker from Friday night to Monday morning at the Blackstone Hotel with no limits if you are a Texas poker player." And he said, "Well, I play a little poker." Monday morning, he came over to the house with his arms loaded with gifts for everybody. He broke the game, put the money back in the business, and they passed a law in the family that he could have $100 a month to gamble. He's a compulsive gambler. And that's it. Stay away from the till. Stay away from the money. And one of his, Irving Kahn, became the lawyer for the Teamsters Union on the West Coast. And another brother of his, the family did very well once they kept Jake away from the money. Then came the Second World War, and they were in San Diego, and they opened up convenience stores all over San Diego, and they became a very wealthy family. But that's about the Kershman story.
All right. So it was your great-grandfather who was the one, what was his name, who was originally abducted?
Pardon?
What was his name, the one, your great-grandfather who was
Isaac.
abducted? Isaac. And then your grandfather was, your father was Saul?
Saul. The family name, my father's family name, my family name, was Saul Itzkov Kershman. In Russian, that means of Isaac. Mm-hmm. There are other Kershmans, but there's only one branch that's Itzkov.
That's because Isaac was
That's
the
right.
first one.
That's right.
And then what was your grandfather's name?
Isaac.
So Isaac, and then Saul?
Isaac was the one who was kidnapped.
Uh-huh.
His son was a butcher. And,
Also named Isaac?
Yeah. Itzkov, yeah. And then my father. So our family individual history doesn't go back very far. Back to the period of Nikolai Pyotr.
Yeah. Well, it may not go back very far, but it's going to go far into the future.
Yes. I think in terms of
Starting with this one.
That's right. I'm very proud of you. Very, very proud of you. And I just searched my brain as to anything I can do to help you along in the court. Because art is a very individual thing. Very individual. There's one thing I wish you would do. I know you sing, but I wish you would learn a musical instrument. Anything, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how well you play. Because in playing a musical instrument, guitar, trumpet, whatever, you develop the left and right hemisphere of your brain to where they're working simultaneously.
I thought of learning how to play a hammered dulcimer.
Yeah, actually, she saw a hammered dulcimer at Music Folk and just fell in love with it.
That's fine.
But
we never went through with it.
yeah, we didn't buy it. They're expensive.
Yeah.
How expensive?
Oh, $300-400, something
What?
like that. $300 or $400. I mean, not expensive for a musical instrument, but
It's also
expensive
a
for
commitment, so it would have to be really committed to it, especially for that much money.
I happen to have a very, very fine trumpet. I mean, a fine trumpet. Historically fine. The bell is solid sterling silver. It was the most popular trumpet during the big band era. Harry James played this model, all of the great trumpet players. And I have no place to put it. Playing the trumpet is really an easy thing to learn. And you could also play in the school band.
Yeah.
But I'm very, very strong on music. How's Cohen doing with that guitar?
well, he's been playing it a lot lately because he's in this class that's it's a songwriting class.
Ah.
And so he's got assignments to create his own songs, and they're learning sort of some elements of composition, and
that's fantastic.
he's got a chord progression. Oh, I think your phone is.
Again, Nakamo. Hello. Yeah, I did. I got somebody to go over to my old room and straighten out my talking book and get my iPad for me. So I got that out of the way. I got a book to listen to tomorrow when I go to dialysis. And so what I'm saying is whatever time you get here or don't get here is up to you, whatever fits in your What's that? Right. I know you got a difficulty there. You got a problem. Yeah, well, it's a problem that you have to find a solution. But anyway, I'm okay with clothing. I love this new shirt. It's multi-purpose. Right now I'm talking to Jonathan and Alethea. So, yeah. So, yeah. Okay. That's all right. That's okay. But if you can make it, wonderful. If you, for some reason you can't, that's okay too. Okay. I will. Bye-bye. My sugar.
So anyway, I was saying Cohen has a chord progression that he has made up that he really likes, and I don't know if he's come up with lyrics or not, but he's just been working on kind of getting that into his fingers, and but it's he's really getting a little bit of a renaissance in his playing, and just more interested in wanting to do it.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's great.
I would think about whether you want to play whatever instrument you want to play. It doesn't matter. It's all music, and that I read a study back when I was 70 that retired people who played a musical instrument of any kind to any level kept their brain going. The simultaneous interplay between the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of the brain. It's not rocket science.
Are you playing your trumpet every day?
Oh, every day. I play the cornet.
Oh, the cornet?
Yeah. Mm. But anyway, I'd like to find a home for that trumpet.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if any of our kids are looking at the trumpet, but if they do,
Well,
I'll
just
let
keep
you know.
Keep it in mind.
Have you asked Ian?
What's that?
Have you asked Ian? He really likes music.
He's playing piano, though.
Oh, Ian's playing the piano. 10 years old, he's taught himself to play the piano.
Very impressive.
Yeah. Right now he's down with a bug.
Mm.
But I'm very excited about what you're doing.
Thank you.
When do you get out of John Burroughs?
2022.
What?
The year 2022.
Oh, okay. Well, you've got some time. You're in senior high now.
Yeah, she's a 9th grader now.
Ah, wonderful. Well, I'm sure if you speak to the correct people there and your dad can direct you, they would put together a program for you. But architecture itself has various side ventures. It's not just designing houses, designing businesses. Design, that's it. And you have to put yourself in the position of the person who actually is doing the work to make their work easier. That's the main thing. Anyway, that's my thinking on it. Those are great looking boots.
Thank you. They're very comfortable.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Well, Grandpa, we're going to have to get going in a minute because we have to pick Cohen up from robotics.
Aha. That's and I just spoke to your mom, and she said you were going to have lunch with her
On Friday?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's excellent. That's a good chess set, and I think you played chess. I understand with Burke.
Yeah, I've been playing some chess with him recently.
Well, this is a nice set. It's portable. It's in a box, so I want you to have it.
That's fun.
Okay.
Okay, great. All right, Grandpa.
Okay.
Great to see you.
My pleasure.
We love you. 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 So much better than this old corn. It's like.
You know, the kids
Wow.
they play as
Can you see your
loud.
video?
Yeah.
Either?
You can't see it.
Can you hear it?
What is that?
This is you.
He can.
Oh.
Really incredible difference.
Here, I'll put it on the big Bluetooth for him to hear.
On the big TV.
No, let's let them keep playing. I want to get more.
Yeah.
I'm recording.
I want him to
stuff
keep
with
playing.
Audio recorder.
That's a nice recorder. Look at that thing.
It takes really incredible recording. Like it sounds. Once I was recording myself playing guitar, and the kids kind of ran in, talking to me, Daddy. And later, I was listening to that recording with headphones on,
Terrific.
and
You want to try to play
I
it?
could have sworn the
I
kids
can
were
try.
running. It's
Mother,
a
yeah,
stereo.
maybe you're-
I don't know how to play it. Is it sound the same or? I don't know.
Grandpa, give us some more.
Yeah, you play
I
something.
want to hear some more.
This is good mango bun. It's more
We can get
moist
some
than.
more footage.
Wow, nice job.
Come on, boy.
So let's hear it on the big screen.
Dad, it's incredible the difference between that coronet and your old one.
Yeah. This is
It's absolutely beautiful.
Yep.
Want to hear your second video?
Not bad looking either.
Oh, it's
I
beautiful.
think your mom's going to put it on the Bluetooth.
Well, I owe it all to Jonathan, I can tell you.
Oh, my mom's gonna put
I
it on
would
the big
never
TV.
found this farm.
My mom's gonna put it on the big TV.
Well, go ahead.
Hey, all right.
Okay.
And where's your
Get one.
glasses?
Get one more.
Glasses.
Okay, stop. Oh, shoot.
I said,
Becker.
Mardi Gras.
I think it's
Mardi Gras.
She makes sense.